I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV Velocities and Music, the best kept secret in music reviews. A couple years ago, during March Madness, we reviewed Lykke Li's second record, Wounded Rhymes.
Yep.
And I think we liked it.
Yeah, we loved it.
It was one of our favorites of that year.
It was.
Now she's back with her third album, I Never Learn. Now, Tom, can you give us some background on who Lykke Li is, what her sound is, what's the general aesthetic she's going for, and also the difference between Wounded Rhymes, which we reviewed a while back, and I Never Learn?
Yeah, she is a Swedish artist. She works a lot with members of Peter, Bjorn, and John, kind of on the production side. Yeah. More Swedish crew, a lot of good music coming out of there. And she's definitely got the female pop artist kind of vibe to her, but she's much darker. Her vocals tend to be a little more reverbed out. She's more about mood. On the percussion side of things, she uses more just kind of like start and stop beats rather than like a consistent rock drum kit, just kind of big drums, big percussion going on in the background, and just a lot about mood. Her music tends to be kind of dark, but at the same time it's very melodic. Yeah. There's a lot of pretty melodies in there for you to kind of focus on the vocal side of things. Just generally a lot of energy, especially on Wounded Rhymes. I would say on I Never Learn, the tempo's cut down a little bit, and generally the energy is a little bit down. And
I'd say a really good way to describe the sound of I Never Learned is to look at the album cover. I think visually it brings out a lot of the darker, more depressing themes that you hear on I Never Learned. This is a different beast, and Wounded Rhymes, from a mood standpoint, started off pretty upbeat and then slowly got more serious, dark, and moody as the album progressed, which we actually like. I think she handled that pretty flawlessly. Now, going into I Never Learned, now we should note that there is some sort of loose conceptuality going on with these three albums, and this is the third part of this piece. Now, that aside, it's not too apparent that it's conceptual from the lyrics, so I kind of put that on the shelf because the bands need to kind of come out and make a formal statement to me. Hey, this is a concept album, and here's why. I don't need to go through research and like the Mars Volta saying oh, every one of our albums is a concept album, and but never giving me any indication in the listening experience. It doesn't really count. That's all I'm saying. So, I Never Learn, I kind of feel like, just based on the album cover, she's in this dark, kind of almost like funeral dress looking thing, hands on her heart, very big symbols of heartbreak, loneliness, struggling with dealing with life's realities. A lot of themes like that, which are echoed in the lyrics throughout I Never Learn. Also in the mood, I think there's a lot of just darker tones to this album. There's not a lot of really upbeat melodies. There's not a lot of pop hooks. A lot of the choruses, what she does is she just pops into these. It doesn't really get louder. She just adds more vocal tracks to it, so it's kind of like this choral backing, and she just kind of repeats the chorus over and over again. There is an acoustic track on here, track 6, Love Me Like I'm Not Made of Stone, where it's a very lo-fi acoustic guitar and Lykke Li's vocals, and that, she is trying to capture some embodiment of this, really deep subject matter, but where we need to get into now, I think, Tom, is discussing execution on I Never Learn. Because I don't feel like she did a very good job executing the ideas she was going for in this album. The ideas are very apparent. And if you can take the ideas for face value and listen to this album just thinking about the ideas and what she's going for, that's great. But when artists do that, when artists create a concept album or have a statement to say, that's great. But that's only one side of the coin. The other side, the other part of the story that you have to know and have to understand is the execution side. They have to be able to deliver. And quite frankly, I just think that this album really struggles on multiple fronts. Should I go? Should I just keep going?
Keep rolling.
Okay, number one, her vocal parts are just... they're terrible. Her vocal parts just lack that enthusiasm we heard on her previous records.
Only in the writing, but in the performance.
In the performance, too. She sounds lazy. She sounds tired. She sounds like, she just rolled out of bed and she's super depressed. I get she's probably going for that. It just doesn't sound that good. It really is just off-putting. Plus, I think the entirety of this album is written in a very similar key change or key signature, and that makes for and her range is just very, very small on this record. She's not going into a falsetto. She's not showing any like.
She's never even belting it.
She really doesn't ever show any talent as a vocalist whatsoever, and it makes this really hard to listen to because she just keeps doing it over and over again. She keeps singing the same little 3-note vocal part over and over and over again on every track. And then what makes it worse is to add emphasis, and she's not really adding hooks in the music like a lot of good indie pop artists do. She's actually just repeating these lines over and over and over again, and just trying to get it stuck in your head through repetition. And let me tell you something, there is nothing that I hate more than a lack of ideas and compensating for a lack of ideas with repetition. There is nothing I hate more than that.
And even from there, subject matter. So you mentioned the dark themes and everything. Well, let me say this. Spoiler alert, Lykke Li is sad, and she doesn't want to be alone, and she wants someone to like love her, but she's
not made of stone.
Yeah, but she's also like alone. There, you just listened to the album. I just saved you the entire experience of having to listen to this album, because that's all that happens. And my big problem with it is
But she has a heart of steel, Tom.
But God damn it. But what really bothers me about it isn't that those are the subjects. You can write about those subjects.
That's fine.
But here's the thing.
Do it in
she doesn't do it in any creative or artistic or poetic way. She does it through repetition. She does it through telling you how many times. She does it through, quantity, not quality. You saying that you're lonely and that you want to be loved 100 times doesn't make it any better. It doesn't hit any more home. You have to paint a picture. You have to make me understand why you're feeling that way. Tell a story. Don't just say, oh, hey, by the way, did I mention that I don't want to be alone? Yeah, you freaking mentioned it. I get that.
And that conveyance of emotion is so bland in her vocal performance, but it's also bland in the composition of the melodies that she's constructing behind that. The beats aren't really that exciting. A lot of the electronic melodies that she's composing behind that aren't really that exciting. There's not a lot of good hooks anywhere in this mix throughout the entire album. Now, I would say that track 5, Gunshot, is probably one of the better tracks on the album. Also, track 9, the closer, Sleeping Alone, is one of the better tracks on the record. I actually didn't pick any tracks here because one of my criteria for picking tracks is that I want to listen to this song for the rest of the year, or a group of songs for the rest of the year. And there's no track on here that I can honestly say that by, because I just don't feel like the execution was of a professional level. This, in my mind, is not on the level that would ever be considered good music. Ever. It is so far from it, and which, and that's fine. And I know that there's a lot of Lykke Li fans out there who are going to love this, who are way into that. And I guess that's all right, we're looking for something very, we're very particular about what we're looking for. And it just requires a level of execution that is just higher than what I Never Learn offers us.
Yeah, this album was just bland to me. I did not look forward to listening to it. It was just over 30 minutes. And by the third track, I was ready to be done with it. Now, I will say, I actually did pick the closing track, Sleeping Alone, as a track pick because I really liked that song. It was the one saving grace on this album to me, because the rest of the songs, they just sound so much alike. With the exception of Love Me Like I'm Not Made of Stone, but I didn't like that song. It sounded like a sloppy, lo-fi acoustic ballad.
And she just repeated that crappy vocal melody over and over and over again, the same lyric.
Yeah, and I've heard so many better things done by just local, unsigned artists in my town.
I've heard you write a better song that reminds me of that song.
well, it's just, other than those two tracks, everything on this album to me sounded the same. It sounded lazily executed, and it just didn't have much to offer. Now, I will say, because we're gonna, never mind. I'll say that after the score we give it. What are you gonna give it?
I'm gonna give this a 54. Just to put it simply, there are far more weaknesses of I Never Learned than strengths. There's just too many that I could even, in good faith, 50s are a bad record. That's just the way we look at it. 50s from us means don't listen to it.
Now, I'm going to give it a 57. So that puts us in the mid-50s. Now, what I want to clarify real quick is that the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s is territory that Jake and I don't get into all that much.
True.
Because we choose to listen to albums that we
pre-screen.
Yeah, exactly.
We pre-screen.
But this is one we wanted to listen to anyway. So now, I'm sure the question everyone's wondering is, well, after we just ripped this album apart, what could have made it worse to put it into the 20s, 30s, or 40s range?
She's actually trying.
Yeah,
there's ideas.
She is, yeah, and especially, like I said, there was a track or two that I actually liked, one that I really liked, a couple I didn't mind so much. Also, she had the tact to keep it short. If this was a 50-minute album, it would easily be in the 40s for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like that there's a general aesthetic to her sound. She kept it themed. You know, there is that concept going behind the music, and I think that, you know, she does have a message that she's delivering. I don't particularly agree or like that message, but that's where the opinion of the music reviewer and you guys, you know, comes into play. And just quite simply, this just didn't do it for me. I think it's just a bad album. And, but it's not completely devoid of music, like stuff that Nicki Minaj or Justin Bieber have come out with, which has earned 20s from us.
Yes.
This isn't a joke record to me. This is a serious attempt at a raw, personal listening experience. It just failed on many levels. So we're gonna just stick with our mid-50s score, but we're really interested in what you guys are hearing. You know, I know that other critics out there are giving this like in around that 80 range, what would be an 80 for us, and we just completely disagree. So you guys could very well be of that same mindset that you know that you might like this album a little bit more than us. I'm really interested, and I'm sure Tom is too, what your thoughts are on I Never Learned, because as Lykke Li's third record, I'm sure you guys have heard of her by now. Leave us a comment at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic with your thoughts. Also, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and let us know what records you would like Tom and I to review on this channel. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.